I will call the meeting to order. Very good. We just have quorum. Councillor Dan Rasevich is online or using Teams.
Hello?
I'm going to ask for a motion to recess for 30 minutes so we can ensure we have quorum for the entire period here as we're waiting for somebody urgently to get in. Councillor Bezo? We need a seconder? Nope, that's it. Any opposed? Carried. 30 minutes, folks. I'll give people a 2-minute warning to assume your chairs. We need to have everybody in their seats, please. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for waiting. I will call this meeting to order. Good morning and welcome to the June 18th, 2025 Executive Committee meeting. We acknowledge that we are on traditional lands of the Treaty 4 territory, a treaty signed with 35 First Nations across southern Saskatchewan and parts of Alberta and Manitoba, and the original lands of the Cree, Saulteaux, Dakota, Lakota, Nakota, and on the homeland of the Métis Nation. The City of Regina owes a strength and vibrancy to these lands and the diverse Indigenous peoples whose ancestors' footsteps have marked this territory, as well as the settlers from around the world who continue to be welcomed here and call Regina home. Some members of the committee and city administration may be attending the meeting today through video conferencing. I would like to remind those members of the following. Please ensure that your video camera and microphone are turned off. If a member of the committee wishes to speak, use the raise hand function to be placed in the speaking queue. When speaking, remember to unmute your microphone and enable your video camera, and all votes will be conducted with a recorded vote. The deadline to register as a delegation of reports recommended for consideration by City Council at its meeting scheduled for June 25th is 12 p.m. on Monday, June 23rd. I'd first like to remind all councillors today that we are at bare minimum for a quorum, and so if you do need to leave briefly for something urgent, we need to call a recess in order to maintain parliamentary decorum and procedure and all the good stuff like that. I would like to remind councillors that you do not get a trophy for the most questions or using up your 5 minutes, and a reminder to delegations that the longest answer may not be the best answer. So first we'll have the approval of the public agenda. Can I have someone move a motion today to approve the agenda at the call of the chair with the following adjustments? We're going to withdraw Ashley Hay and Judy Veras-Suck from the list of delegations, and we are going to withdraw report EX 2562 Rogers Communications Cell Tower leases from this meeting. I'd like a mover, Councillor Seacless. I will call the question. Any opposed? It is carried. Can I have somebody move a motion to adopt the minutes of the public meeting held on June 4th, 2025? Mayor Bashinsky. I'd like to ask people to ask if they saw any errors, omissions, typos, or grammar problems. Seeing none, I will call the question. Any opposed? Carried. We'll now consider item EX 2557, 2024 Annual Integrity Commissioner Report. I'd like to call upon Angela Kruk, Integrity Commissioner, to please introduce the report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, everybody.
If you just hold on a second here. Good. Okay. Thank you. We've got things cleared up. You may proceed.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Angela Kruk, Integrity Commissioner for the City of Regina, and it is my pleasure to present to you today the annual report for my office covering the calendar year of 2024. There are several functions covered by the role of the Integrity Commissioner. In 2024, the bulk of the work that I performed as Integrity Commissioner related to complaints, but I also had the opportunity to deliver one educational session to all of Council immediately following the general election in 2024. Complaints can be categorized under the Code of Ethics bylaw as formal and informal. Formal complaints are requests that an investigation be performed into the conduct of a member of council, and they must comply with the criteria in the code. A total of 2 formal complaints were submitted in 2024, and not all formal complaints are going to go through an investigation process. In 2024, as it turns out, neither one of the formal complaints submitted were actually investigated. One of the complaints related to a conflict of interest, which is not within my jurisdiction as Integrity Commissioner under the City of Regina's Code of Ethics bylaw to investigate. The other one related to a decision made by council, which is also something that is not regulated by the Code of Ethics. Informal complaints or inquiries are just that. They're inquiries from people. And sometimes the informal complaints or the inquiries are related to conduct covered by the Code of Ethics, and sometimes they're entirely unrelated. Either way, I respond to and I track each and every informal complaint that is made to my office. And in 2024, I received a total of 11 inquiries or informal complaints. The subject matter of those 11 inquiries varied from matters related to a conflict of interest, inquiries about the role of an integrity commissioner, conduct during the election period, and sometimes it's just general unhappiness with something the city did and people just don't know where to go. Over the past 3 years of my term as Integrity Commissioner for the City of Regina, the trend for both complaints and inquiries has gradually been declining, which is, in my view, a very positive trend. It tells me that sometimes there's a bit of a learning curve for new members of council to get used to their obligations under the Code of Ethics bylaw, but when they do, conduct improves and less complaints are seen. Another significant occurrence in 2024 was that I had an opportunity to meet virtually with other integrity commissioners from Manitoba, Alberta, and British Columbia. This was significant because it's never happened before. We had a series of roundtable discussions on a variety of topics that are relevant to all of the jurisdictions. And out of these meetings, one thing became really clear to me. Although there's a variety of different ethics bylaws in place in all of these different municipalities in the provinces, there's also a lot of commonalities to the issues facing integrity commissioners and municipal councils in terms of their ethics bylaw. There was a commitment from all of the integrity commissioners that attended to continue these meetings, and there's hope for a more in-depth conference to be held sometime in 2025. Those are my remarks, Mr. Chair. Thank you for allowing me to present them today.
Thank you very much. I'd like to ask if there are any questions from any council members on this report. And this is for administration as well, correct, for administration or for Ms. Scott. I don't see any hands up right now, and I would like to maybe ask you something. With your experience in various aspects, would you call the world now a bit more complicated, maybe aggressive, litigious, that is, as a, and I'll flash my newbie card here as a city council member, that is it quite important for us to maybe have really good advice as we're going through so that we don't end up having to meet with you to maybe discuss some items?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, absolutely. I mean, I can't say whether or not the world is more litigious or not, but I think overall, the Code of Ethics bylaw is relatively new. I think it's not been around for that long. And so I think members of the public are becoming more and more aware of it, which may, in some cases, lead to more and more complaints or inquiries being made. In terms of what a member of council can do to try and get up to speed on what their obligations are, certainly reaching out to me at any point in time is within possibility. I'm always accessible, and so it's a good idea to do that before something comes up to try and, become knowledgeable overall about your obligations under the Code of Ethics. But sometimes specific situations and scenarios come up. Certainly feel free to reach out to me, and to the extent that I can try and help give you some guidance on what your obligations might be under the Code of Ethics.
Good, great, thank you. Just one last call for any other questions. Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Return to the gallery. Oh. Okay, you bet. Okay. Okay, I'd like to have somebody please to move this report. Councillor Radon, having a moment here. Okay, do you wish to speak to the report? Don't? Do we need a seconder? Not going to think for that one. Okay, no other questions here. Do you wish to close the report, Ms. Radon? With that, I would like to ask the clerk to start the vote.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, the motion is carried unanimously with all members present voting in favor.
Thank you. I will now consider item EX 2558, Accessibility Plan, First Year Update. Can I please have Deputy City Manager Deborah Bryden please introduce the report.
Good morning. Thank you. Through the chair. This report is the first annual progress update on the implementation of the City of Regina's Accessibility Plan, which was approved by Council in April of 2024. The first action within the plan's implementation was to ensure ongoing engagement and accountability throughout the implementation of the plan. Annual updates to Council are an important part of ensuring accountability and engagement as we conduct the exciting and critical work within the Accessibility Plan. This plan includes more than 60 actions to be completed over 10 years. Administration has made progress on several of these actions so far. We have prioritized actions that could be achieved within the existing budgets, such as policy development, training, communications, and outreach. Many of the remaining actions within the plan are related to infrastructure, such as sidewalk maintenance, snow removal, pedestrian infrastructure, and facilities. These actions are high priority to community, and budgets for these items are being considered through the 2026 budget process. The accessibility plan included a list of immediate actions to be implemented to be completed in 2024, and this report provides an update on those actions and all the ongoing work that has resulted. And we are here to answer any questions you may have.
First, can I have somebody move the report? Councillor Turnbull, and would you like to speak to the report?
Sure. I believe that the accessibility plan is a very important piece of what we're doing as a city. And to get the update is good. And I can save more for closing remarks, but I do have some questions. Is now the appropriate time?
Yeah, you can move into that.
Okay, from this report, I wanted to ask about some specific, so is this report outdated report, or is it up to date to this point?
Through the chair, these are actions that were completed in 2024.
Okay, so this would have been before the actions we've taken since then?
Through the chair, yes, that's correct.
Okay, that makes sense to me. And then I wanted to ask the question of Amin to make sure, and probably bring some accountability to make sure that the accessibility funding will be included in the 2026 budget.
Thanks for that question through the chair. So we are having conversations now, and that work will be available for discussion throughout administration's budget discussions as well as council's budget deliberations.
Okay, and so we can expect the accessibility budget to go forward on the floor or be notified of it, and it won't disappear?
Through the chair, so the information will be available for council. I can't speak right now as we work through the budget process as to what will actually be included in the budget that's presented to council, but certainly the information will be available for conversations or consultation, and Mr. Anderson may have something further to add.
Mr. Anderson?
Thank you, and through the chair. So yeah, the short answer is yes, it will be included, and maybe we'll we have another item today to go through the budget process, and I can fill you in more on how that process will work this year. But the short answer is yes, that stuff will be included for discussion.
Okay, and that would be the 2.1 million number that was identified in the last budget.
Through the chair, so that will include anything that's been identified as a requirement through council direction.
Okay, thank you. And then I think everything else is about items which has happened since then and very positive. So I will leave it for closing.
Okay, I'd like to ask if there are any other questions or any other members of council. Seeing none, Councillor Turnbull, would you like to close?
Sure. Back to me. I would like to give my appreciation to administration and the accessibility committee for their work. Since this report has been passed, since this 2024 report, this council and the administration in front of us has actually made a lot of strides. We've passed the accessible playground motion. We've gotten the accessible taxi bylaw passed. We've pulled out the sidewalks as a separate plan from the roads. And we've added to paratransit. And that's something I'm proud of us as a team here in this horseshoe, and with administration, we've been able to make those policy changes and work towards something better. And I'm really looking forward to seeing the results of those reports as they come forward. And again, making sure that we have the opportunity to weigh in on these items at budget time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Turnbull. I will ask the acting city clerk to start the vote. Councillor Mancinelli, we will verbally record your vote there.
Yeah, I was in favor.
In favor.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, the motion is carried unanimously with all 7 members present voting in favor.
Thank you. We will now consider item EX 2559, Prairies Can funding for Regina Downtown Business Improvement District. Can I have Acting City Clerk Amber Ackerman please introduce the report?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, the Regina Downtown Business Improvement District, or RD bid, successfully applied to Prairies Economic Development Canada, or Prairies Can, for $920,000 in grant funding to support its square interim use project. The proposed project is a temporary use of the former Gordon Block and Burns Hanley sites in downtown Regina. According to the project proposal, the 11,000 square foot site will host a beer garden, additional retail and food and beverage units, space for food trucks, activation and performance space, washrooms, and storage for Regina Downtown's clean team. Along with the Prairie Can grant, the proposed project will be funded using the remainder of an existing City of Regina grant to RD bid approved by City Council in May of 2024 and financial support from Harvard Developments and RD bid itself. The city is not directly involved in delivering this project, but Prairies Can requires the City of Regina be a signatory on the contribution agreement. This report is necessary because City Council approval is required to enter into contribution agreements above $500,000 annually.
Thank you. We will recognize also that Judith Versuk from RD Bid is attendance as not as a delegation, but as part of the administration for the discussion of this one here. Can I have somebody to move this report, please? Councillor Mancinelli. Councillor Mancinelli, would you like to speak to the report? Go ahead.
I just wonder if anyone can comment on the technicality of why council has to, or why the administration has to receive the money in the passing along. I think it's education worthy, just in light of what happened to EDR with being an arm's length organization and trying to have government assistance as well as real. This is another in favor example of how a city-run organization affected things. So just a proper explanation would be nice. Too many broken words and not enough thought? Should I rephrase?
Ms. Ackerman?
So I can start, and then I might pass it off to the solicitor to add. So as I had indicated in my introductory remarks, because this project will be funded using the remainder of an existing City of Regina grant to RDB approved by City Council in May of 2024, the financial support from Harvard Developments and RDBID itself, it requires the City of Regina as a signatory on the contribution agreement.
Thank you. Sorry, there you go.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry.
I appreciate that. Sorry for the broken question there. I guess I was hoping it was going to be a bit more technical, but when we applied for a community, a Regina-owned organization, we had to give the money back. This time it's a grant money. You know, we get it that way, and it's because it's a municipal-owned organization. I thought that was really important because there was so much negative publicity in the past. This is positive publicity. I just wanted to kind of point the situation out a little bit. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mancinelli. I'll continue to ask. Any other further questions from any members of council? Seeing none. Councillor Radons, you moved this, correct? Mancinelli, would you like to close? Nope. Nothing to speak to? Okay. We will now ask the acting city clerk to start the vote.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, the motion is carried unanimously with all 7 members present voting in favor.
Thank you, Ms. Ackerman. We will now consider item EX 2561, complimentary city facility passes. Can I have Deputy City Manager Deborah Bryden please introduce this report? Oh, that's... Oh, sorry.
An item here.
But sorry, I grabbed the wrong page. Apologies. Okay, instead, we're changing plans back to normal here. I would like to call, we are now going to talk about EX 2560. I would like to call upon delegation Bob Linner and Kevin Reese to please come forward to the delegation table. Thank you. Please introduce yourself for the record, the organization you're representing, if applicable, and where you live. You have 5 minutes to address the Executive Committee, after which you have the opportunity to respond to any questions that the members may have of you. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and good morning. Thank you for entertaining our presentation this morning on this very significant matter. My name is Bob Linner, and I'm joined by Kevin Reese of Carina Developments, both of us representing Northridge Development Corporation, the landowners of 80 acres of known as the proposed Westbrook subdivision located immediately south of the Goulet Golf Course and east of the newly built Pinky Road. This is the land that in your report is referred to as the special study area with recommendations for its consideration. Northridge acquired this land, Mr. Chairman, in 2005 with the purpose of developing it when the wastewater servicing capacity and access were put in place. It was designated a special study in the 2013 OCP because provision had to be made to address those gaps in servicing and permit its development when it could be determined that it met the city's servicing requirements and other policies of the city growth OCP. Our presentation, Mr. Chairman, addresses the two significant matters of the report. The recommended policy to have the city front end the essential northwest lift station to be repaid with interest from development levies by the lands to be developed, and the attendant designation of the Northridge Special Study Land as Phase 1 development. Your administration has presented in this report a most comprehensive analysis and articulation of the issues and options for an aggressive step forward to ensure servicing capacity is put in place to have these lands serviced and developed to meet the rapidly impending lot shortage in the city as the existing developments are absorbed. The rationale is compelling and complete. While it represents a change in infrastructure funding policy, it's a candid recognition of the real market challenges with an achievable city developer participation model. It's an essential decision, and after exhaustive consideration of options with your administration, it's the only model that we believe can achieve the necessary results in the now very tight time frames required to provide more lots to continue with the housing construction. Northridge, Mr. Chairman, has patiently followed the city planning and infrastructure investment plans for the past 20 years, recognizing and accepting that it was an appropriate process and a well-planned strategy by the city. The company is a major land developer and housing construction leader in the province, averaging up to 200 units a year across the province, and in Regina, 80 to 100 units a year are being built single-family townhouse and apartment development. They have not been an active land developer in Regina in recent years, but have been active in all their cities in the province and invested in this land to be ready for development when the infrastructure and access were put in place. Westbrook now meets all of the established criteria of the OCP for Phase 1 development. Its location fulfills the complete neighborhood compact city criteria, and but for the lack of access and wastewater capacity and road access, would have been Phase 1 long ago under your OCP. The new Pinky Road and bridge having been built linking 9th Avenue North to Dudney Avenue, and the construction of the lift station resolves the outstanding wastewater capacity issue. The challenges facing the housing market are fully and cogently known and understood. Regina is no exception. The economics and market obstacles are real. Concerted and aggressive collaborative initiative by all levels of government and private builders, developers must come together to stay ahead of the demand and be ready. The alternative will be stalled or missed opportunity to continue to meet the growth vision the City Council articulates. Your administration is to be commended, Mr. Chairman, for putting forward a shared concept to prepare Regina for the next phase of development and ensure the city has the infrastructure in place with a policy and financial model supported by the investment of builders and developers. Northridge, Mr. Chairman, has begun the process of preparing to develop this land for 400 housing units with lots to be ready as early as 2027, consistent with the financial model and planning policies of your OCP. They fully understand and appreciate the timing to get to this stage of approval and fully support the recommendations and commend and appreciate the administration and council for the leadership. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Rees and I are prepared to answer any questions and provide any additional comment, and thank you for the opportunity to present on behalf of Northridge Development.
Thank you very much. I see one question already. Councillor Seekles, please go ahead.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Thank you, gentlemen, both for being here today. I'm not sure we can emphasize enough how dire our situation is compared to our other cities around us in the prairies with respect to running out of houses to sell. And I wanted to give you an opportunity to sort of expand a little bit on that because it was only one sentence, yet I think that's the main reason why we need, as a city, to really focus on putting capability in there with respect to front-end loading and getting lift stations made so we can build more communities. What are your thoughts?
Mr. Leonard, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, as you will hear from other delegations, the land supply in Regina, certainly in the east sector of the city, is running short. I believe the next delegation will indicate they're down to about 150 to 120 lots available. The absorption trends will exceed the supply of land within the next year or two. The main thrust behind this report and recommendation and our position is that putting the Northwest Lift Station in place with a funding model that's before you will provide the fundamental infrastructure to allow the developers to move forward with their commitment to subdivision and servicing and payment of levy fees. So I think the fundamental message from us and from the other developers is that this report is critical to ensure that Regina continues to grow and meets its housing demands and needs In the absence of this, the opportunity will be lost. Time gaps will create shortages of lots and certainly impede the city's ability to continue to meet the housing demand. I think in my experience for over 30 years in this business with the city and in the private sector, this is as critical a stage as I've seen for land development and the ability to finance the fundamental infrastructure. This is an aggressive and creative step forward by the city to meet that demand and will allow the city to grow. Without this, the city runs the risk of starting to lose the opportunity for growth and housing demand and probably promote development of the surrounding areas at the absence of the city. So yes, to us, this is a critical issue, and the demand is real, the shortage of lots is real, and this will bring the two together.
Thank you. No further questions.
I have questions from Councillor Fro. Please go ahead.
Good morning, through the chair. Welcome back, Mr. Linner. I know you spent many times here. My question is in relation both to your proposal, but your experience as a civic leader for many decades in our city. And that is how you look at the proposed policy vis-a-vis how I understand it was done earlier, and perhaps during your tenure, by way of lift stations being included in the SAF and levy generally. I think it's an important policy consideration for us, understanding its nuance and there's debt implications. But as a former city manager and supporting development in our community, I'm wondering, given that you have a new council, if you could provide some context of how it used to be done, how it's currently done, and how, from your perspective, you see an ideal path forward between those two scenarios.
Mr. Linner.
Mr. Chairman, over the 30-odd years that I've been involved, actually closer to 50 years now, but that's probably longer than I want to remember. This policy probably returns us closer to where we were during the period when I was city manager, where essentially the major lift stations, the major infrastructure was actually funded by the city to be recovered from levies over time. That policy has changed over the years based on some of the city's fiscal capacity and borrowing limits. So what this policy really does is probably return the city to a position closer to where it was over the last, say, 20 or 30 years ago during buoyant growth periods, where the city takes on the front end with the ability to recover that cost from the developer. The challenge we're facing is that the scale of development and the scale of the costs with several developers simply exceeds the ability of any one developer to front end the funding. So what this is doing is really taking the city back to the position where there's a leadership role by the city to front end the lift stations, the basic infrastructure to be recovered. And I think it's a progressive and necessary step faced with the scale of the market, the scale of the cost to develop it, and the need to have a recovery model for the city. So we're really going back to where we were 20 or 30 years ago, having been interrupted by a period where the city moved to have the developers more front-end the development, as you'll see from the West Era piece of this development, into a model that now is sustainable. It's a model that works and achieves what we want, and that is infrastructure in place for developers to invest and to repay the city for that investment.
Thank you. I see no further questions. I'd like to thank you for your presentation. You return to the gallery.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
I would like to call upon Delegation Jason Carlston and Diana Howrluck to please come down to the delegation table. Good morning. Please introduce yourself for the record, the organization you are representing, if applicable, and where you live. You have 5 minutes to address the Executive Committee, after which you will have the opportunity to respond to any questions that the members may have of you. Please proceed.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. I'm Jason Carlston. I'm Regional Vice President for DREAM here in Regina, and I live in Regina, and I'm with Diana Howrluck, the General Manager of Land Development, also in Regina with DREAM. DREAM's been in Regina since the 1950s, originally known as Karen's Homes. We've been developing communities and community building for decades, and we hope for that tradition to continue for many more decades. And to that note, we're here to express support for the approval of the administration's recommendations regarding the financing of the Northwest Regional Wastewater Lift Station. This lift station is a critical piece of infrastructure that's going to unlock development potential of Regina's entire northwest quadrant. The existing lift stations in Maple Ridge and West Hill have reached the end of their service life and no longer have capacity to support additional growth and are failing to service existing population. By investing in a new lift station, a regional lift station, the city will not only be able to decommission these aging facilities to improve service for existing residents, but will also enable the continued development of the Rosewood neighborhood and enable Coopertown, Carry the Kettle, Cowessus, Geiger Lands, and Northridge, who preceded us, all of those lands to develop over time in the northwest quadrant. We commend the city administration for its collaborative approach in developing a financing model that balances municipal needs with affordability for its growing population. As outlined in the report, the city will be reimbursed for its capital investment and interest costs through an area-specific development charge in addition to the regular service agreement fee. This cost recovery model is a growth pays for growth approach. With approval of this report, as one of the property owners within the area, DREAM is prepared to move forward immediately with the long-anticipated development of Coopertown. We're actively working with the city's planning and engineering teams to begin site servicing this fall, with lots being delivered to the builders at the end of 26 for a 2027 construction and occupancy timeframe. Our initial phase would deliver approximately 220 lots, and we're targeting full build-out of our initial concept plan area within 7 to 9 years. We did very high-level analysis on what this area would provide economically, and in 2021, the average household spending in Saskatchewan was $90,000. With an anticipated 2,400 units, we'd be looking at $216 million of spending within the economy. But more importantly, from your perspective, from a property tax generation, this area would generate approximately $10.6 million of property tax annually, of which 6.7 would be municipal. Regina's pace of growth has remained steady over the recent years, and we're approaching a critical shortage of service lots, as has been noted. We will be allocating the final 114 lots in Eastbrook in our southeast neighborhood this fall. And we understand that the town's neighborhood, the city lands, are also nearing the end of its current lot inventory. Without this lift station and the financing, Regina will be left with only one developing neighborhood, limiting market choice for home buyers and constraining the city's ability to accommodate future growth. It'd be very unusual for a city of our size not to have any type of market choice for a new neighborhood. Coopertown is envisioned as a complete community, offering a mix of commercial, rental, and market housing options. The full Coopertown neighborhood area encompasses approximately 1,800 acres and is planned to accommodate a future population of 37,000 residents. So that's like Moose Jaw being tacked on to the northwest of Regina. It represents a key component of the long-term growth strategy, Council's long-term growth strategy. So approval of this regional infrastructure and financing is essential to realizing the vision and enabling continued development in the northwest sector of the city per Council's growth plan. That said, we would just again respectfully request Council to approve the administration's recommendations in this report and be forwarded to City Council with such. That concludes the presentation. We're available for questions.
Thank you very much. I'll look to council members to see if there's any questions. I see a couple. Councillor Seacless, please go ahead.
Thank you. Through you, Deputy Mayor. Thanks, Jason and Diana. Good morning. Thank you for being here. Front-end loading for funding of lift stations is common practice in Canada. And some of my questions will be saved for administration, but you know, I'm looking to try and understand how did we get here when this is a common practice? It sounds like we're asking for something special when this should be a normal course of business for a city. What, in your estimation, has caused us to get to this point?
Through the chair, I think a large component of that answer can be responded to by Ms. Bryden in terms of the history, but it, as Mr. Linner had indicated, for most of the time that I've been in development, up till I think it was around 2017 that it might have changed, that lift stations and the such were included in the development levy model. I think Ms. Bryden might be able to explain, but I'll provide my perspective on it. there was a movement to keep the service agreement fee lower and also reduce the amount of debt that might be committed to the model by putting the front end costs directly to the development community, which effectively some of the front end costs can be borne by the developer, but the magnitude of others, such as lift stations, is certainly a burden. And many of the other property owners in the area who don't own a lot of land really would never have the financial wherewithal to be able to proceed at all. Like rightfully under the current policy, Rosewood is actually the first developer in and should be building the lift station by policy today. Just further to your point, Councillor, that we deal in other cities and it's the norm to have this type of infrastructure within the development levy models. So for instance, in Saskatoon, interchanges, lift stations, trunks, they're within a model, and we actually have a area-specific rate in Saskatoon.
Thanks for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next in the speaking queue is Councillor Fro. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you through the chair and Councillor Seeklees took the first part of my question. So, understanding that, Saskatoon, Ottawa, London, Vancouver, other communities do this. For those without experience in development that may be watching or following the proceedings, my question to you, Jason, is, someone might ask, well, Dream is a highly profitable, publicly traded company. You do business across the country. Maybe give some context, given that it's a reasonable expectation that Cooperstown will be profitable, that, why isn't it that, say Dream in this particular case couldn't, fund this particular piece of infrastructure? Maybe kind of walk us through in layman's terms for those that aren't experts in development, your perspective on that, because I think it's a fair question to those that might be paying attention to the proceedings. Dream's quite successful, and we have limited, nickels in this town to spend on infrastructure as it is.
Yes, through the chair, I can provide a few perspectives to respond to that. One, Dream has been successful, and a large degree, we're proud of the communities we build, but we're also very good risk managers. And where our capital goes is highly dependent upon what we can see for returns in time and the safety or the risk of those returns. When we looked at this years ago, and the cost of the lift station we estimated was in the 35 to 40 million range, not like 66, we assessed what it would take for us to be able to do that. And financing it is one thing, but we're also required to make some profit in development. And we didn't see any profit for over 10 years. So when we're comparing capital, because Regina doesn't exist in a vacuum, that we have to attract capital, and capital will go where it's of lowest risk or can do best returns. And that just makes it uncompetitive entirely with that type of front ending, which is why other cities do it. There's an understanding of that.
And maybe my last question through the chair, thanks for that context, is it's done commonly elsewhere, but not exclusively. Are there other communities that Dream operates in successfully that doesn't have a policy like this, or perhaps a policy more connected to how things used to be done in this community for context?
I'm not aware of one. Like in Western Canada, we're in Edmonton, Calgary, and Saskatoon in here. I'm not familiar entirely with our Edmonton because we're developing in Beaumont, but in Beaumont it's covered in development levies. Calgary, cities covering the infrastructure and we pay levies, and Saskatoon, as I noted, is. I'm not sure about our eastern communities. Those are very different. We do a lot of infill development in our eastern communities.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Fo. Councillor Bizo, you are next. Please proceed.
Thank you very much, through the chair. Thank you for coming today and doing your presentation. The question I have is more technical around the development itself, not really on the infrastructure that we're going to be discussing today. Presuming that the infrastructure we're going to have a discussion for today gets approved and the lift station will proceed, how fast would you have shovels in the ground to develop these neighborhoods?
Through the chair, Presuming this is approved through council next week, our engineers are already designing the detailed design, and we would hope to have shovels in the ground, would be grading in the fall, in August, September, and hope to start excavating to put in pipes late fall for this. And then in 26, we would be servicing the 220 lots, hopefully to have them ready for builders by the end of 26, in the fall of 26.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Mancinelli.
Thank you. Through the chair, I got a bit of a Dreamer question for Dream. I was lucky enough to view one of Dream's developments in Ottawa. It was very unique. It took waste energy from a nearby plant. It converted it for a whole heating grid for an entire neighborhood. I think to build out something like 40,000 people. During that, they were mentioning the different types of sustainability measures they took, and one of them was the waste energy from the sewer. And looking at the size of this trunk line and the fact that it'll feed a whole quarter of Regina 50 years from now, and you know, the way of the world technology, I was wondering, does Dream have any thoughts when they look at this type of a commodity of energy and developing a neighborhood? Is there any types of technology they see adaptable? Has that even been thought of in Regina, or are we just like not up to that thinking yet? Or how does that work? Through the chair. I guess I know the answer is going to be costs. I was going to follow up with that question just to say, is there an availability of design for future concept while we do this? Would be the closer.
Ms. Harlock.
Through you, Mr. Chairman. So that is something that we'll be looking at from a sustainability, but right now we're going with conventional right now, but I think it's something that's always going to be something that we'll look at as we move forward in terms of implementing that. I know a number of different councillors and the mayor toured that development, and I think we take all of our learnings from all of our different cities to build great communities, and those are the types of things that we want to try and emulate if we can.
Yeah, and I guess just like I was commenting, not to turn a blind eye to the costs and what's going on and how far this ball's rolled to get here, but just an availability for future, I guess, is to leave the door open if that would be, you know, something that would be shared or talked about or considered. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mancinelli. Mayor Chad Gracinski, please go ahead.
Thank you, through the chair. I just want to be super clear that the developers do pay back the city with interest for the capacity of the lift station that we're front-ending.
Through Mr. Chairperson, yes, we do.
Okay. Yeah. I want to make it very clear for everybody watching online, all the hundreds and thousands of people that Councillor Sickley's talks about. And with that, and just to follow up to that, and would you agree that it does enable more developers to come to the table because we are parsing out the capacity based on the development volume that's coming forward?
Through the chair, absolutely. The administration's been very good at ensuring that the catchment area of this lift station takes in all of the property owners within the Northwest who have intent and are within the policy areas of the city for development. I would just add to this, going back to Councillor Fro's question, I'd also note that regarding front-ending, we will be putting in about $20 to $25 million of front-ending just for the local services to bring on that first phase of 220 some lots. So that also inhibits our financial ability on the bigger infrastructure.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Seeing no further questions, I'd like to thank you for your presentation. You may return to the gallery.
Thank you.
I'd like to call on Delegation Blair Forster to please come down to the delegation table. Please introduce yourself for the record, the organization you're representing, if applicable, and where you live. You have 5 minutes to address Executive Committee, after which you will have the opportunity to respond to any questions that the members may have of you. Please proceed.
Thank you, Chair Burton, Your Worship, members of Executive Committee. My name is Blair Forster. I'm the President of Forster Harvard Development Corp., as well as the President of Westera Development Corp., and we're based out of Regina. I'm here today to speak in favor of Administration's report, EX 25-60, which is the front ending of lift stations. In 2013 to 2015, when the city reworked the SAF policy, the result was a significant amount of downloading of costs to the development community. These costs were previously included in the SAF rate, as you've heard, and the major components of this were lift stations, stormwater detention facilities, and contributions to arterial roads and collector roads. Westera was the first neighborhood approved under the city's new OCP, and the only neighborhood that it constructed at its sole cost a lift station sized not only to accommodate the 500 acres within Westera, but approximately 400 acres of land outside our boundary in the benefiting basin. We've been forced to carry these oversizing costs now for well over a decade. The size, design, and the components contained within the lift station are entirely dictated by the city. The developer is not able to simply construct what they need, nor can they value engineer the lift station to reduce costs. These lift stations are clearly regional infrastructure financed by the private sector. In our case, the cost burden has resulted in millions of dollars of cost. It has allowed other competitive land in the city, including the city's land in the town, to have a significant financial advantage over Westera. This has created an uneven playing field where some neighborhoods are simply feeding off existing infrastructure in the system, while others are required to pay for their capacity as well as the capacity of their neighbors. In my opinion, this policy was flawed from the outset, and I spoke aggressively against it. And we are now seeing that without a shift to the city front-ending lift stations, we will not see any new neighborhoods break ground. The result will be a significant shortage of land in the next 18 months. I strongly encourage you to adopt this front-ending policy immediately to allow the remaining Phase 1 neighborhoods to proceed. I want to thank Deb Bryden and her team for recognizing the severity of this issue and the countless hours they've put into this report. That concludes my presentation. Thank you for having me here today, and I look forward to any questions that you may have.
Thank you for your presentation. First I see Councillor Bizo. Please go ahead.
Thanks for coming here today, Blair, and through the chair. I'll ask you the same question. Presuming this lift station is approved, how fast will you have shovels in the ground to ensure that developments go forward and we have lots ready to build on?
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair, our lift station is in place. So we received unanimous approval at Planning Commission yesterday for our next phase of Westera, which is 323 lots and 4 multi-sites. That will be going to council the same day this is going to council. We are already in the ground in anticipation of that coming, and we will have those parcels available for construction this fall, and we expect to see basements dug this fall.
Thank you.
Okay, I see no further questions in the queue there. I'd like to thank you for your presentation today. Thank you for addressing the Executive Committee. You may return to the gallery.
Thank you.
We will now consider communications related to EX 2560. We have the following communications with respect to this report. EX 2568, Mark Geiger from Geiger Developments. EX 2569, Stu Niebergall from Regina and Region Home Builders Association. EX 2570, Evan Hunchak, Bright Communities Limited. Can I please have someone move that these communications be received and filed? Councillor Seacliss. Speak. Sorry. Do you have any to speak to it or not? No. Okay. Just call the question. Are there any opposed? Carried. We will now consider item EX 2560, Municipal Front-Ending Lift Stations. Can I have Deputy City Manager Deborah Bryden please introduce the report?
Thank you, through the chair. This report presents the results of work that's been completed over the past year to explore a municipal front-ending policy for the wastewater lift stations required to advance new neighborhoods. Prior to that, administration spent a good solid year working with the development community in a review of our servicing agreement fee policy. As a result of that, it became very clear that some of these expenses that were included in that policy were cost prohibitive to advance these new lands. And last year, council approved us working on this particular policy. And I would like to thank our development community for the time they've spent with our team. We've all spent a lot of time over the last few years trying to work to advance our infrastructure. Shifting initial funding of this costly infrastructure away from developers is intended to accelerate the construction of new neighborhoods and housing, which may help current housing supply conditions and affordability pressures. This report recommends municipal front-ending policies for both the Northwest Regional Wastewater Lift Station and the Westera Wastewater Lift Station, involving city financing these projects and recovering their costs through charges applied to the developers over time. We're also recommending that the city apply to the fall intake of the Canada Housing Infrastructure Fund for the Northwest Regional Wastewater Lift Station, and if it's successful, it would result in reducing the cost share from $66.8 million to $17.8 million. We're also recommending that City Council approve the Northwest Regional Wastewater Lift Station project and allocate funds from the General Utility Reserve to support project design costs in 2026. Overall, this work aligns with and represents a step forward in supporting the city's economic prosperity and housing affordability goals. These investments are projected to unlock approximately 18,000 new homes, supporting new housing, businesses, property tax revenue, development charges, and activity in the construction sector. Specific to this lift station, the investment will help address wastewater level of service issues for over 2,000 existing properties currently serviced by lift stations nearing the end of their operational lifespan. In addition, we are recommending the approval to put in place a senior project manager to advance this project. This would be a term position that would be funded through the capital budget. This initiative reflects a year of close collaboration with our external partners. It's intended to provide a balanced, forward-looking approach to infrastructure financing that supports both immediate and long-term community needs. With that, our team and I are here and available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Bryden. Can I have somebody move this report? Mayor Chad Wyszynski. And there's no seconder. Oh. First, Mayor Wyszynski, would you like to speak to the report?
Thank you through the chair. I want to say thank you to Deb and team for all the work on this. Thank you to the developers for participating in the process. I am in violent agreement on moving this forward, and just from the the perspective of we're trying to encourage and enable development in our city, and it is really encouraging to see everybody come to the table to find a way to do that. At the end of the day, as indicated already, the city will be made whole at the end of the day. This is a mechanism to get us there, to make sure that we can get that development going today. So I don't have any questions for you. I just want to state for the record my violent agreement in moving forward and approving this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Wyszynski. Next, we have Councillor Mancinelli. Please go ahead.
Thank you. I think I've really been caught by the design of this lift station. I think it's very innovative, and I think it's very forward-looking. I want to see if I understand it correctly. Under the previous model, when a subdivision went up, it was built by the developer in a couple instances, and that was built to capacity of what was being built. If there was a former problem in a historic neighborhood, there was no extra capacity added to alleviate those concerns at all. So it was really just for the new development, right? If I look at how this has been redesigned, what you guys have managed to do is you redesigned how you provide capacity. You encompassed 2 operating lift stations along with all of their costs for operation. You increased the capacity throughout the northwest corner. In the decades to come, That's going to reduce maintenance costs. That's going to solve decades-old problems with people having backup on sewers, on flooding events. It's not going to fix the world, but it's the first time I can ever remember of a potential solution coming for people who have been in a property for 30 years and experienced an ongoing problem. Am I misunderstanding that? Through the chair.
Ms. Bryden.
Thank you. Through the chair, no, I don't think you're misunderstanding. We're really taking a regional approach to the Northwest and helping to ensure that we have planned, thoughtful infrastructure in place to support the development, the full development and build out of that community, and also to take those lift stations that are in place currently offline.
So what you're not doing is you're not taking a need, building a solution as cheaply as possible to fit the one need and calling it success. You're encompassing many needs into a project, thereby having future outcomes be much more positive. Perfect.
Through the chair, that's correct.
Thank you very much. Yeah, violently for this. It's been a big piece of work. You guys should name that trunk of line after someone who designed it like exceptionally well. And I hope in the decades to come we can steal the heat out of it too. It's better than a street in my estimation. Like, that's cool. Thank you. And thank you for the forward innovative design. I think we need that thinking throughout our city on all tangents that we deal with. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll keep everybody violently moving ahead. We'll have the WWE ring in the middle here later in the day for violent agreements all the way through. Councillor Flo, you are the next violent councillor to speak.
Okay, the term is violent agreement, to the chair. No, I mean, I think we clearly have recognized, even as a new councillor, through the chair, of the need for more housing, different types of housing, and the interplay between that availability and affordability and being a viable and vibrant community. My question through the chair to administration, notwithstanding the context we had today, I think it is worth discussing a little bit the opportunity cost, given our debt limit and some of the needs we have as a community. So I'm looking for clarity here, certainly not a leading statement. Can you walk me through administration's perspective if we are not successful in leveraging funding from other parties of government, and what that does to our approach to Cooperstown and more broadly development in our city?
Deputy City Manager Anderson for taking it, or Ms. Bryden? Please go ahead.
Thank you. Through the chair, thank you for that question, Councillor. First of all, I do hope we are successful for the grant. But I would say, you know, as we look at our infrastructure moving forward, we are taking a more planned and thoughtful approach to funding. In this particular case, lift stations would never have been in our capital budget prior to this policy. I shouldn't say never. Historically, clearly they were, but the last number of years they haven't been, and so we would not have had a funding source. So as we move forward, we're looking at certainly front-ending this and balancing debt clearly, potentially, as well as, and then we've asked for considerations as we get into the 2027 budget conversation about looking at mill or utility rates to kind of cushion the costs, or as the development builds out. Clearly we will see funding coming in through the local rates, and then that debt will be reduced, and so the mill rate would be seen as kind of a cushioning to support that funding.
Thank you. Through the chair, the other question that I have for administration is as it relates to sort of density and infill, and again, a learning for me, but you know, clearly we're moving forward with an intention on the old Taylor Field site. There's some work yet to do, but opportunity undoubtedly regarding the yards and our downtown core. Is there an opportunity cost associated with that, or do you see a mechanism, a path forward whereby all of these options are feasible. Clearly, we need the many thousands of units in Cooperstown and Westera. There's no disagreement there. But given some of the other efforts on infill, I'd like your perspective on that, please.
Thank you, through the chair. So clearly, we want to support both infill and greenfield development. We recognize a need for all types of housing throughout the city. I think one of the important things to bring forward at this time, and this council wouldn't have been involved in that conversation, but part of the work we brought last year related to the servicing agreement fee policy was we hadn't put in place a mechanism to help fund infrastructure needed for intensification. And so that was put in place last year, and we have several projects underway right now that actually will support intensification infrastructure. So we have the larger South Trunk project underway, which will see some the increase of capacity for intensification. And then there are other projects lined up, certainly in the Taylor Field lands. We've got infrastructure. I think council approved us applying for a grant for that infrastructure to be in place to support the plans for that land as well. So we are taking all of these things into consideration, certainly as we advance our city.
So just for clarity then, is it fair to say, Ms. Bryden, that you do not see this as an either or, you see this as another tool in our toolbox?
Thank you, through the chair, 100%. It's not an either or. We need to be able to provide housing options citywide for folks. Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you, through the chair. Given what I've heard today, is that from a comparative perspective, this brings us in line with how other municipalities treat lift stations. And certainly as it relates to Western Canada, I understand will be made whole with interest. And I understand that this does not come at the expense of some of our other important endeavors related to density and infill. So certainly with that in mind, I'll be supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fro. Councillor Radons, please proceed.
Thank you. Through the chair, thank you for the response on the inner city and core, and I appreciate that. And so I'm not going to say that I'm violently in support. However, I am wholeheartedly in support. And extremely ecstatic to move forward, because housing is incredibly important for our city and for, meeting the growth that we want to see. Though, thanks to Councillor Fro for his question, because we do have a lot of focus on growing outside. Now, I want to see the inside of our city have the same TLC given to it, and the improvement for the value in our city across the board. And so where I live, it needs work. We need a culture change, and I want to see that. And I don't want it to be neglected going forward. And so I thank you for, all the work that you folks have put into this, and look forward to growing and beautifying and densifying and all the good stuff that's going to come with improving our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Next in the queue, Councillor Turnbull, please go ahead.
Hello, I am also wholeheartedly and in joyful agreement. We have talked about the north and central, so I do want to ask a little bit about the east of the city, where in Arcola East, we are also looking for things in the future and like a little bit of update on that, because the feedback that I hear in the southeast is that when there isn't the lots, people are moving right out of the city and going to White City or Pilot Butte. And what we are doing about that so that we maintain people within our city.
Ms. Bryden, please go ahead.
Thank you, through the chair. Thank you for that question, Councillor. So I just, part of the constraints within the southeast is the capacity in our wastewater system. And some of the work that we're doing, the regional work of this Northwest lift station, it does a number of things. You know, it helps the residents that are up in that area, but this lift station will also bypass the main basin of our wastewater system, which will also help create some capacity within our main system. Also, the other projects that I talked about, the South Trunk, that's another work that is underway. It won't be completed for a few years. It's a 5-year project. It's underway now and will be completed in 2030, I expect. And then there's a few other little pieces of work that need to occur to help. We think that will create the capacity so that it'll allow us to finish out that southeast land. There's still some analysis that's going to be needed after that work is done, but it is certainly top of mind. I'll also remind Council again that we are currently underway in our growth plan review, and that work will come forward in Q4 of this year.
Okay. Great, thank you. So I think this is critical to approve and to grow our city and for our economic prosperity. And really, again, kudos to everyone for working collaboratively to find a solution and coming to the table. And I guess not violently, but in wholehearted agreement.
Okay, with no further speakers in the queue, Mayor Chad Bashinsky, would you like to close debate?
Yeah, just as a closing, thank you again to everybody involved. I think this is an amazing step to accelerate the growth of our city. So thank you for the dialogue, thank you for the work, and I look forward to moving this forward.
Thank you. With that, there was great dialogue, political dialogue, debate, discussion, and no violence that I was able to observe. I'd like to ask the acting city clerk to please start the vote. Councillor Bizo, for the record, if you could indicate your vote.
Yes.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, the motion is carried unanimously with all 8 members present voting in favor.
Thank you very much. Now, I won't turn 2 pages this time. We will now consider item EX 2561, complimentary city facility passes. Can I have Deputy City Manager Deborah Bryden please introduce the report?
Thank you, through the chair. I just need to change gears a minute here.
You bet. Take your time.
Okay. This report is being brought forward in response to Council Motion MN 25-3, which directed administration to explore the creation of a program that provides complimentary city recreation facility passes as a means of recognizing and encouraging volunteerism. In addition, the report seeks Council's consideration of a proposed volunteer recognition program, including the associated implementation details, policy alignment, and administration implications. We recognize volunteers are essential to the success of community events, programs, and organizations across Regina. This program is intended to recognize their contributions in a meaningful and cost-effective way. The proposed program would provide eligible volunteers with a unique 3-admission pass for use at city-operated recreation facilities beginning in January of 2026. The program is designed to be transparent, equitable, and administratively manageable through our clear eligibility criteria, annual pass limits per individual, and monitoring mechanisms. The initiative aligns with the city's broader goals of creating a healthier and more inclusive community and making Regina a great place to work, live, and volunteer. And with that, we'll take any questions you might have.
Thank you very much. First, can I have somebody move this report, please? Councillor Massanelli, do you wish to speak to the report? He does not. I will ask if there's any other questions from any other members here. I do have one myself. When I was reviewing the report there, I did notice, I believe that arenas were not listed. Although there's a free skate, there is a paid skate. Would that be an option for somebody to use? Because it did list the pools, field house, and various things like that. But I believe that I did not see arenas in there for that somebody could use that for a skate.
Thank you through the chair. Yes, they would be.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. Seeing no other questions, thank you very much. At this, Councillor Massanelli, do you wish to close debate? He is good. I'll ask the acting city clerk to please start the vote.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, the motion is carried with 7 voting in favor as Councillor Bizo has temporarily stepped away from the meeting.
Thank you. Our next report is from Darren Anderson. Is somebody here that's going to represent Darren, or are we just going to wait a minute? Okay, I'll entertain people with my last night trying to do some of the completion of the report, reading of the reports in preparation for today's meeting, and having power failures, and not being able to see the third period of the hockey game and see the Stanley Cup being awarded. And I did want to compliment administration on the, I've never seen a failure with the water system, so I did just want to pass my compliments on to the administration for keeping water running while power fails around us regularly. We will now consider item EX 2563, the 2026-2027 budget process. Can I have Chief Financial Officer, Deputy City Manager Darren Anderson, please introduce the report.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. We are here today to present the approach for the 2026-2027 budget process. This process will allow more transparency into the decision-making process at the city and allow for early input from council. The 4-step process described in the report will set the 2026-2027 service level budgets, identify new budget requests from administration and council, review service level budgets with council early, and get a final approval of budget by council in December. We submit this report for your review and are open to questions.
First, can I please have somebody move this report? Councillor Massanelli. Councillor Massanelli, do you wish to speak to the report? Please go ahead.
Much appreciated change in process for the budget. The information ahead of time is greatly appreciated, and also notice that it should come in good alignment with audit and finance for a process going forward that aligns all of our strategies yearly on an ongoing basis. Is that kind of what's happening here?
Through the chair, correct. So yeah, we believe this will, so a lot of the budget stuff comes through exec committee and council because council has to approve the budget, but we will try and mirror what comes through A&F as well. But we believe that it's just important to get out in front so it's not squeezed into 3 days in the middle of December to try and make a lot of very important decisions.
Yeah, notes on transparency are well received as well. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. I'd like to ask if there are any other council members that would like to speak or ask any questions. Councillor Fro, please go ahead.
Through the chair, I want to thank administration for this approach, which I support. Certainly, being a new councillor has a learning process, and I think this will avail itself well for this year. Question through the chair to administration, Mr. Anderson, is at some point during the budgeting process, and I've heard administration talk insightfully about this before. Will we walk through a mechanism by which we look at having sort of baselines or sort of goalposts within our main areas of responsibility, and sort of look to sort of set expectations for administration, perhaps doing some comparative baselines with other communities, such as police being within a certain budget, parks being within a certain budget, right? Will that process avail itself to that? Because I mean, I think that as we move forward, not only understanding how we stack up against other communities, but for council to provide some administration as to sort of how we see the breakdown percentage-wise of the budget. Is that something that you've entertained, or is that premature at this point?
Mr. Anderson.
Yes, and through the chair, thanks for the great question, Councillor. So yes, well, the bulk of this process is focusing on what it will cost the city to provide the service levels that council has put on administration. We are also in parallel currently working on bringing in a consultant to do some work around efficiencies and benchmarking, like you said, our major expense categories against our like cities. So we're hopeful that, you know, we'll be able to provide transparency around what the costs are for the current service levels, and at the same time provide some context then to say, well, this is a range that we think is appropriate given other cities that we're competing with for residents, essentially. And hopefully that will all come into fruition throughout the fall. I'll take the opportunity to say, you know, this is a big change for a city the size of Regina. And so we're going to do our best to provide the right information, and this will be a learning year, and then hopefully council and ANF will be patient with us as we try and get through, but we're going to make sure we're providing the right information at the right time so you guys can make the right decisions at budget time. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fro. Just checking out for any questions. And I got one just popped up here. Councillor Turnbull, please go ahead.
Hello, thank you for the improvements and the suggestions. I'm in support of us continuing to grow to make this an easier, better process for all of us, and I appreciate your collaboration on this and your listening. One note I will have about budget time coming up is the previous budget. It was pretty difficult to read when the budget's increases were due to moving around from other line items from reorganization. And I would just like to note that when we're putting together this budget, if it's due to reorganization, or this is now that, or that is this, is some acknowledgement within the budget so that there's a why. Like, this is 3 times the amount because it was actually these 2 things last time. Because I felt there was a lot of running around as a counselor trying to read this budget, or the public trying to, why are these numbers why they are? And so if I don't know how to word that, I don't think it needs to go in the motion, but just as a part of the feedback, that if it says why something is this way, or where it came from, or this department is now this far, or if there was some sort of, I don't know, like org chart that's connected to it in some ways, especially when it comes to the employment and the services, that would be very helpful. So thank you for this new improvements, and those are just some more inputs. And I know we're growing together in this, and I thank you for that.
Thank you. Councillor Radons.
Thank you for the work you put into this, and I appreciate the, you know, the steps and the processes and how we're going to move forward. I kind of feel like the last budget debates in March was a little bit hairy, and so this is important also for the transparency piece, which is incredibly important for not only us, but also for our residents. And so these things do matter, and appreciate the work that you put forward on this. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a question. In the proposal here, it describes that there are special September city council meetings here scheduled here once a week in September. I was just checking, would those be proposed as a full day or a half day special sitting of council?
Through the chair, so I think we're still debating that. We'll see how the first one goes. Hopefully they can be half days and we can get through. Some areas might take more depending on the complexity or the changes that we have. To Councillor Turnbull's point, like if we have a bunch of changes in an area coming forward, we might need to take more time. Some areas when we bring it forward might be more straightforward. So we're very cognizant of all your time, and we'll make sure that we're trying to be as efficient as we can while providing you guys the information you need to make good decisions.
Okay, thank you. I see no further speakers in the queue here right now. Oh, okay. Councillor Mancinelli, would you like to close debate? Good. Okay. With that, I would like to ask the acting city clerk to start the vote.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, the motion is carried 7-0. Councillor Siklis was temporarily away from the meeting.
You bet. Okay, just as an FYI, folks, we'll be moving ahead here. We technically would be scheduled at 11:15 to have a break, but this will then push us right up to lunch. So we're going to go right through until lunchtime and keep her going here for that. So just from an administration point of view. A reminder, we just nobody else right now will leave. We're at minimum right now, so you got to wait for somebody to come back. Okay, we will now consider item EX 2564, Parks Master Plan Update. Can I have Deputy City Manager Deborah Bryden please introduce the report?
Thank you. Through the chair. On May 8th of 2024, Regina City Council approved our Parks Master Plan. During the approval, Council directed administration to report back to the Executive Committee with an update on the Parks Master Plan annually. This is the first annual report. The Parks Master Plan provides a vision, principles, policies, recommendations, and targets for the development, redevelopment, and management of parks and open space. Implementation of the Parks Master Plan began in Q3 of 2024, and the results highlighted are interim measures. In May of 2024, Council approved the Master Plan with the requirement to provide an update. Sorry, that's a repeat line. Administration is required to capture key performance indicators in the plan, and these indicators measure how we are progressing with our targets and goals. With that, the team is here and ready to answer any questions you might have on things that we have implemented or are moving to implement in the future.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bryden. First, can I have somebody please move the report? Councillor Froh. Councillor Froh, do you wish to speak to it?
Thank you, and through the chair, thank you to administration for this work, and I was quite impressed by both the plan as a new councillor, but also some of the performance measures, and that's where I'll just focus a couple of my questions. We talk a lot in our community about the state of our physical assets, the health of those assets, the utilization of those assets. My questions are around the health and state of our park assets, noting that there are some performance measures in Goal 3 around this. 3.2.3 talks about a park condition assessment tool, and I'm looking for administration, if it is developed, to provide us their sense of the health of our park system, but also how we view the state of those parks in a similar way to how we look at the state of our our assets in terms of deferred maintenance and the health of those assets. So what I'm looking at is for some context on, the health of our parks and I guess that's the first part of my question. I'll stop there.
Thank you. Through the chair, I will refer that question to Mr. Sale.
Please go ahead.
Through the chair, that work is ongoing right now. So we have a consultant team that just started out in our park system this year. So we are going to be looking over the summer. They're going to look at every single one of our parks. So and we will get that data back as the summer progresses and then into the fall. And so we'll have a sense through 2025 and 2026 what the state of our assets are.
That's great. Thank you. Through the chair, sort of tied similar to our last conversation. As part of that work, will we also identify the dollars required to maintain those parks and those natural assets in a way that aligns with the performance measures in our plan, so that we don't fall behind, given how important parks are to our community? Is that part of your work plan?
Do you want me to take that?
Mr. Sale?
So through the chair, the condition assessment won't give us individual costs. What the condition assessment will allow us to do is to identify areas of the city where we need to invest further, and then my team will likely then start doing design work. And it's only when we get really to the design work phase that we start doing individual costing. Costing on a system-wide scale is challenging.
Understanding that there's lots of steps to this important work, and you're in the first step, would it be, looking for administration's perspective, would it be useful for administration, through administration as council, to have some sense over the life of this plan as to the dollars it might be required within an order of magnitude, so that when we're planning our budget and we're planning to take care of these natural assets, that we in turn are budgeting effectively so that we don't do that? Yeah, I understand it. There might be some challenges to it, so there might be some estimates, but would that be a worthwhile exercise?
Yeah. Thank you. Through the chair, as we do the condition assessments, we will start to determine, the priorities. So which parks are needing what we need to do to get them to the level of service that we need, and then from that we will certainly be looking at what those dollars will need to be allocated over the future in order to maintain and improve our park system.
Thank you. So, Ms. Braden, would that come back to council at the appropriate time then?
Through the chair, that would probably come back through council as we talk about our budget and our capital budgets.
Okay, thank you. Maybe a newbie question through the chair. When you're doing those park assessments, understanding you're looking at naturalization and trails and trees and shrubs, are you also looking at like the structures within the parks, the play structures, the benches, the washrooms and things like that as well?
Thank you. Through the chair, I'll refer that question to Mr. Sale.
Mr. Sale,
Yes, through the chair, yes, we're looking at all of the elements in the park. So from garbage cans to plant material to playgrounds, a key piece of this condition assessment will be our playground condition assessment and accessibility assessment as well.
Great. My last question, I might be getting into the weeds, but it's comments and emails and calls I get quite regularly from Ward 3, and as it relates to our urban forest, understanding that we've done quite well, right? We're plus 3,000 trees. I understand that we're planting different types of trees as the climate changes and there's disease in certain trees. There's some concern among some residents in Ward 3 over our mature trees and our policy around when taking down a mature tree is permissible and when it's not. And so the first part of my last question is, what's our assessment in terms of the health of our urban forest by our more mature trees? And I don't have the technical term in front of me, although it was provided to me, the trees beyond a certain diameter. Where are we at with that particular natural asset, and what is your comfort level on that?
Thank you. Through the chair, I'll refer that question to Russell.
Thank you, through the chair. Councillor Fro, that's a great question. Right now our urban forest has approximately 180,000 street and park trees in the system. The elms, which is mostly in your ward, roughly 1 tree in 3 in the city is an elm tree at this point. Dutch elm disease we're constantly working on. We do a state urban forest report, and it shows that, roughly speaking, last year we removed about 800 trees. We've replaced with 1,000 trees, so we're growing just a little bit, but the mortality's keeping us almost even, is the best way to put it. Mostly to drought is the biggest term. In terms of development, you know, there is an application process which is done, and you know, we take it on a case-by-case basis.
Sure. Do you have a sense, and it's fine to take it offline, of what the cost of replacement of that urban sort of tree landscape might be? You know, I think it's important that we quantify both our physical and natural assets.
So there's 2 ways you calculate this, and so it's, sorry, through the chair. There's 2 ways to calculate this. One is the overall asset value of the urban forest, and while I don't have the document in front of me, it's a little over $1 billion in terms of the assessed value of every single tree as an aggregate. If a storm was to come through, though, what the real number is what would it cost to plant a tree in its place? And you can't replace a big tree as it's worth. So I think we're in the order, it's 143 million. I could be off on that number. I don't have it in front of me.
Okay. No, thank you. My last question, and just because you're presenting today, and I was provided with the report, which was excellent. Some communities regulate the removal of mature trees on private land, and some don't. And I understand that those that do might wish they didn't, and sometimes those that don't regulate it wish they did. But there is a lot, I have received a lot of feedback over concern of the removal of mature trees in Ward 3 through infill development. And of course, those big, large diameter trees, to your previous point, are hard to remove. What is administration's perspective in terms of how we look at the regulation of the removal of large mature trees for infill development? I know there's some nuance there, but I'd like to hear your perspective on that.
Thank you. Through the chair, it is a very balanced consideration. We certainly oversee any tree removal on city-owned land, for sure, but we don't currently regulate the removal of trees on private land. And we are encouraging infill development. So it makes it really difficult to take that kind of a stand, to do both, certainly. And so, yeah, we have not been regulating the removal of trees, and I don't believe that we've had any indication that we would start to do that on private property.
What I would also ask is, right now we're also doing a urban forest master plan, or we're working on it. We're actually in the community consultation phase of it, and that would be good comments for the community to make as part of that survey. It's actually out right now.
Yeah, well, that's great. I think, you know, I've received some data as it relates to my ward and mature trees and how many have been taken down. I think given the work that we're doing, given that we're going to try to attach some dollar values to what it's required to maintain those natural assets over time, I think it would also be useful. Certainly I would like to see how we're doing in terms of the health of those mature trees and sort of net gain or net loss. Certainly it's a priority for a lot of folks in Ward 3. I just want to compliment administration on this report. You probably didn't expect to be grilled in the minutiae of it, but there's a lot of great work here, and I can't overstate how important that park system is to our community. So thanks for the work that you do.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next in. Councillor Bezo, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Through the chair. Just on the community engagement, is your group, are they having discussions like directly with the community groups as well as part of the community engagement, like the community associations? like the survey is like, I'm gonna say like we have these surveys and a lot of feedback that comes in, but are we drilling right into the community associations as well?
Thank you.
Ms.
Through the
Bryden.
chair, I'll refer that question to Mr. Irick on terms of what that consultation is looking like.
Mr. Ard, please go ahead.
So through the chair, may I ask a question just to clarify? You're talking the urban forest master plan?
Just the forest master plan, the parks master.
Councillor Bezo, speak this way. just so
Sorry,
it goes-
the parks master plans, the forest master plans, make sure that, the community engagement's there, not just a couple people filling a survey and.
No, the community engagement plan is actually going to be quite intensive for the forest master plan. So we are actually having a First Nations engagement with that community as well. We're also engaging, actually this morning, some of the professional groups, the professional arborists and those in the community. We are also reaching out to groups like Nature Regina, groups like that. We're advertising, trying to get comments in from that. We're reaching out also to other groups, other stakeholders like the Regina Home Builders Association and those, because there's implications when it comes to that. We're actually trying to reach out to each sector group to get comments in.
Thank you. Thank you. And then one more question on the whole aspect of the parks. Where does the community gardens fit in? I presume it's kind of under this umbrella somehow. And is there more feedback coming from the community for more community gardens or conversion of some park space that's underutilized for community gardens?
Thank you. Through the chair, I'll refer that question to Mr. Sale.
Thank you, through the chair. So the city has a separate community gardens policy. That policy identifies that community gardens are, that we can look at any park or open space for a community garden, and then we have to do our due diligence to make sure that it makes sense. So when community groups reach out to the city, they work with my team, and we provide landscape architectural services, and we bring them through the process, and then eventually it transfers over to real estate for them to bring a report to council, because community gardens inevitably involve a lease. So the city of Regina, we permit community gardens and we do that through partnerships, but we don't run community gardens as an organization.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
I would also, through the chair, I would just add that if there are groups that want to come forward, certainly we work with them to help advance community gardens, because we do encourage those.
Thank you. Councillor Bezo, please proceed. Councillor Bezo, the floor is yours. Councillor Seacliff, please proceed. They look the same.
Thanks for that. Thank you, through you, Chair. I don't know if this is the place to ask about some specific ward issues. Would that be okay? Questions about my ward? Yes? Okay. When was the handover of the, from Dream to the city of the area that, well, I don't even know if we have a name for a creek that runs through there with the walkway on either side and Harbor Landing. When did that come to our responsibility? What year?
Through the chair, I don't think we have that information in front of us. We can certainly reach out with that information to you.
Okay. More questions about that same area. Why is one side paved and the other side unfinished in gravel? It's been years, by the way.
Through the chair, as we work through these developments with the developer and they're building their spaces, those things are considered. I actually can't speak to that particular location at this time as to why that decision was made.
Why is there no lighting in the pathways?
Through the chair, that would be the same answer. Yeah.
Why are the benches not cleared of snow in the winter?
Thank you. Through the chair, we do not currently clear the park benches. We clear the pathways.
Okay.
And we do have a service level for clearing the pathways. We don't currently clear the park benches. We have several thousand park benches throughout the city, and we do not clear the snow.
So Councillor Viso, some of these questions just are on.
Siklis is my name.
Having a moment here, sorry. They're on the edge of operational maintenance, not strategic master plan, so just as you're dealing with your questions there.
Okay. What is our policy for accepting private donations for park improvements?
Through the chair, Mr. Ira can take that question, please.
Please proceed.
Through the chair, we actually do have a tree donation policy that's it's enabled through the urban forest bylaw or through our forestry bylaw. Anyways, sorry. So it's enabled through the forestry bylaw, and it can be done through application online through the city website, and then our team will actually look at it. So if a resident wants a city tree or near a park space behind their home or something like that, it's just working with the team to do it.
Just trees or other items in a park? Would that be a playground question and another discussion?
Thank you. Through the chair, that would be specific to trees. I don't believe we have a specific policy to address a broader donation. We do work with community groups when they're doing fundraising, for example, to improve park spaces, such as the Lakeview Park Space, where there's been a significant amount of community involvement. So we do work with those groups. If they come forward, we're more than happy to work with those groups to help and improve those park spaces.
Thank you.
No further questions there?
No.
Okay, Councillor Siklis. Councillor Turnbull, please go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for your work. This is one of the reports I read a lot. There's a few of them. I wanted to ask, so this is also for up to 2024, correct?
Thank you. Through the chair, yes, that's correct.
Okay, and so there'll be another report coming for the playgrounds in the near future, like quarter Q3?
Through the chair, we are just doing the parks assessment work, which includes the assessment of the playgrounds.
Yeah.
Once we have that work, we can have that longer. I think you're referring to the conversation we had during budget related to accessibility and playgrounds. No?
No. So
okay, that work will come forward in the future. Yeah.
Okay, so it's the Regina Accessible Playground Standard with the report back in Q3 2025 in advance of budget deliberation. That report is the one I am referring to. So anyways, in terms of those assessments, have we purchased the rotational this is a hard word to say, pentrometer, and are we actively using it on our parks?
Through the chair, yes, we have.
Awesome. That's great. Also, kudos. I looked at the website and things seem to be much improved with the identification system. So great. And there's also this great portion on the website to show the different maintenance classes for everyone who's interested in that. I was interested, I didn't see it listed anywhere and it wasn't listed in any previous motions, but do we have any comparable numbers to how many playgrounds Regina has to other communities and types of playgrounds?
Thank you. Through the chair, not that I'm aware of at this time.
Okay. Is it possible to request that be included? The reason I mention that is that every resident would love to have a playground within walking distance or 5 minutes from them, and it really varies. And I think the amount of playgrounds we're maintaining is also equally important as how we're maintaining them.
Thank you. Through the chair. So we do have the recreation master plan, which is what we use in order to how we look at our playgrounds and other recreation services across the city. And I believe that that particular master plan is up for review in the next year or so, I believe. So we might be looking at those kinds of things through that process.
Perfect. And just check to see if there's anything else here. I think most of this will be more applicable to the 2025 and to the playground report that's coming. So I look forward to that, and thank you for your hard work in transforming and growing our playground and parks plan to meet the priorities.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Turnbull. I have a couple of questions, sir, Mr. Bryden. First one is, this winter we did discuss about Green Meadow Park, that with the prevailing wind and snow storms that blow in, this winter, Green Apple Drive was decimated with snow just because the snowstorm came in from the northwest. And we used to put in snow fencing, and we made a decision to not do that anymore with those parks. And we had talked about the potential for design into the park plan to, in various locations, the possibility of including that in park design, that a berm or some type of mitigation in the architecture design of the park could then help prevent snow from accumulating on the streets to make them, in this case, it was impassable on Green Apple Drive there. And I was just wondering if there's any, I didn't see that anywhere in the report, and I'm just wondering if there's anything on that.
Thank you. Through the chair, that would be more through the design of parks as we move forward. And so that would be like new parks coming on stream. Right. So as we are looking at new neighborhoods, for example, and we look at those parks coming on stream, we would look at the design of those parks and determine, things like that.
Would that not be a principle or something like that we'd have in there to just consideration that when you have an open space, that then the odds increase that you have heaviest snow accumulation in certain conditions that could be properly forecasted, and then that might be a design principle.
I'll let Mr. Sale speak to that, please. Thank you, through the chair.
Through the chair, certainly it's a consideration in the design process. We have to balance that with things like crime prevention through environmental design and making sure that people can see into our parks and they're safe. So part of what has to happen in that park and in that neighborhood really is time needs to pass so that the plant material has a chance to grow up and help mitigate the wind. At the moment, we don't have a specific policy around specific to managing snow drifting. We just identify places where we know that snow drifting might be an issue, and we try and mitigate it through design or through fencing, or just through increased management. So before this meeting started, I was having a good conversation with the Director of Roadways about that specific issue. So it's top of mind for some folks, and we're trying to do what we can.
Perfect, thank you. My second question is, trails that run along roadways, example, along Arcola, there's one on the north side between Prince of Wales and Doan. Are they considered part of the park master plan, part of a roadway master plan? Where would those be included?
Thank you, through the chair. We're talking about the multi-use pathways?
In this case, it's a gravel one, I believe. It's just along the north side of Arcola Avenue, kind of buried behind some trees, but really not a park, if I want to put it that way.
No, so that would be just considered as part of our multi-use pathway system.
Okay, and not part of parkway. Okay, perfect. That is all I had. I see a question from Councillor Seacless. Oh, sorry. Yeah, you are up.
Sorry, just trying to find if this was an appropriate question. With respect to invasive plants and weeds, is that a question I can ask here?
Through the chair, yes, it is.
Great, thanks. So why aren't invasive plants and weeds not eradicated in and around the creek that I was talking about?
Thank you. Through the chair, I'll refer that question to Mr. Irick.
Through the chair, it depends on the location and where it is, and there's certain rules within the pesticide legislation of when we can spray and when we cannot spray relative to a creek path. The environmental services team is also very involved with some goat strategies and things like that for things like leafy spurge and those sorts of plants. Also, that for the invasive weeds that are legislated.
Legislated, you said? Sorry, I can't hear very well.
Yes, legislated. So we will spray for legislated noxious weeds, and we're doing so right now.
Okay. I don't know how to add this, but it looks terrible, and I'm getting plenty of complaints from people. So how do I convert that into a question where I'm not told legislation says this or that? Like, can we clean that creek up? Or is this our idea of naturalization, which is code for we're not doing anything?
Thank you. Through the
Ms.
chair.
Bryden?
So just specifically related to naturalization. Naturalization doesn't mean we just let it grow and we don't do anything with it. Naturalized parks still require ongoing maintenance. I would also add, last year, 2 years ago, council approved a policy that would reduce the city's ability to use pesticides. So there are certain instances where the city does not use pesticides. And I think Mr. Irick can probably add more detail and information related specifically to that.
Through the chair, so we'll just use dandelions. We are not currently under current council direction from 2023. We have been directed not to be using herbicides for dandelion control, broadleaf weeds inside City of Regina parks. The only exceptions that we are allowed to do is when it comes to an athletic field, when it comes to quality of play, or golf courses. Otherwise, we're not permitted by council direction. That was a motion that was brought up previously, and that was the decision that came to in June of 2023. When I talk about the legislated weeds, we're still mandated by the province for certain weeds to control, and the provincial legislation trumps council direction. So we will spray for those particular weeds, but it has to be a specific weed, like leafy spurge.
Good. Thank you.
Okay, I see you're done, Mr. Seacless. I see no further questions in the queue. Councillor Fro, would you like to, Councillor Fro, would you like to close debate? With that, we are good. So I will ask the acting city clerk to start the vote.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, the motion is carried unanimously with all 8 members present voting in favor.
Okay, at this point, we'll need a resolution for private session. Can I have somebody move a motion for private session? Councillor Fro. I'll ask the question. Any opposed? Carried. Okay, and now we need a motion to recess for 10 minutes. Councillor Mancinelli. Ask a question. Any opposed? Carried.